Hello and welcome to the Monday News Roundup. This is a more relaxed look at the news headlines that happened over the weekend while you've all been busy playing your games. My name is Gareth Evans. I'm joined by Mr. Henry, Black Panther crossed with Simba on my shirt, Cooper.
It's great. I mean, I've got to get the branding in somewhere. If Disney want to sponsor us, we'll shit out, right?
Yeah, I mean, send us t-shirts. That's what we want.
I want t-shirts. I want review games.
We want games and t-shirts. That's all we want. So we're going to jump in today, and first story is one that's likely to change. So I'm throwing this top of the bill. Call of Duty Warzone. This is the Battle Royale standalone game, is rumoured to be coming very, very soon. Now, a YouTuber, Chaos, has broken an embargo and posted over 10 minutes of gameplay of this. It has since been taken down from YouTube. However, there will be apparently a ton more gameplay when an embargo is lifted today at like 5 p.m. GMT or noon Central Time, I'm told. That's the rumour so far. So by the time this video goes out, there might be a ton of more footage on the game. And the game is expected to release tomorrow, March the 10th. Now, they've been very tight-lipped with information and they've been shutting down a load of leaks recently, but we do know certain things for certain. Based on the video from Chaos, we know a few things confirmed so far, right, Henry?
Yeah, and if these things are ever flagged by the company and they're taken down, I'm inclined to believe that they're real. And those things include that it's a free-to-play standalone Battle Royale release and that it will be cross-platform. It's supposed to have up to 150 players, but the YouTuber Chaos also speculates that will raise all the way up to 200. You'll be able to play in solos, duos, or trios. There will be 3 levels of armor and you'll spawn with just a pistol, then you'll have to find other stuff throughout the map. Everything you do earns you cash, which can then be spent at buy stations, which is perhaps the most creative name I've ever heard. Buy stations can be used to purchase kill streaks, loadouts, and respawn dead enemies, and dead teammates, rather. Why would you want to respawn dead enemies? And it's just want to kill them all over again. Dead players can also be respawned if you win a one-on-one fight in the Gulag, which is supposed to be its own little area where you can go in and kill someone and bring your body back.
Yeah, that's an interesting concept for a Battle Royale. I'd like to see that.
And there is another game mode dubbed Plunder, and again, we don't really know much about that, beyond that it's supposed to be a bit more respawn-based and is all about collecting cash on the same map. It's like Activision releasing a game where you can be an Activision employee. It's all about collecting that cash.
There you go. But like I said, this story is a fast-moving one. If the rumors are true, all this information will have been confirmed maybe by the time this video goes out, so go and check it out. And the game might be releasing tomorrow. I'll certainly be checking out if it is free to play. Absolutely. So next up, we've got Pete Hines. He's been talking to Greg Miller on the We Have Cool Friends podcast over at Kinda Funny Games. Pete Hines obviously is the head of global marketing and PR or whatever. You know, he's a big wig at Bethesda, that's for sure. And he's talking about specifically Fallout 76 in this section. He says, quote, "We tried something that was a pretty big change in direction for that studio, and just because it didn't go well doesn't mean you shouldn't do that. It just means that you need to learn the lessons from what didn't work well so that next time you try something really different, hopefully you avoid some of those problems and issues." So he has taken it on the chin that the game didn't do well. He's not trying to hide that, obviously, because it just be...
You can't hide that.
You cannot hide the fact that Fallout 76 didn't do well. But what lessons are they taking away is my question. Just don't do shitty games as a service, right?
It's really easy to not do that.
Don't try and cash grab on your player bases. The next quote, talking specifically about playing it safe and taking risks in game development. You don't get a Horizon Zero Dawn if that team sticks to what they were known for and had always made. They pivoted and tried something that I think is substantially different than what they had made before. One of his favourite games from that year, he said. Guerrilla Games previously made Killzone, which is a kind of a linear first-person shooter game. And they completely pivoted, as he said, to make Horizon Zero Dawn, which is an open-world third-person game with a female protagonist. A very different game. My question is butchering their beloved Fallout franchise for the sake of recurrent consumer spending and milking players of microtransaction money, is that really a risk at the same level as what Guerrilla Games did? I don't see that.
And the folks at Guerrilla didn't do all of that to Killzone. They didn't make Killzone a open world action adventure title with robot dinosaurs and a girl as the playable character. They made a brand new IP out of it. Perhaps if Bethesda made a new IP with the Fallout 76 kind of mechanics and ideas, maybe people wouldn't have responded so much.
It's a bad comparison. He's saying, "Oh, we've got to experiment, and we'll get our own Horizon Zero done. Not by doing that.
Change the name. Just call it 76 or something." Anyway, he did speak about a bunch of other stuff in that lengthy, over an hour long discussion. It's not really an interview; it's just more of a chat. So we spoke about the reviews and why Bethesda have started quietly giving out review codes again. Which they stopped a little while ago. They introduced an entire policy where they weren't going to do that anymore. Basically because the beginning of all the reviews that came out were talking about how late they got the code, so they didn't have time to fully play the game and give a full impression of it prior to the actual game's release date, which obviously isn't fair on consumers if you want to be informed about what you're trying to buy. He also implied that reviewers who like Bethesda games should be the ones to review Bethesda games, which is pretty bullshit. Mm-hmm. I mean, we only want people to review our games if they already like our games, so they've got that inbuilt natural bias, which they may not even be aware of. And that all just leads to a circle jerk of positive reinforcement, which, to be fair, as a PR guy, of course that's what he wants, because it's free publicity for them. But altogether, that just skews the aggregate review scores on sites like Metacritic altogether, leaning much more positively in the publisher and developer's favour, and doesn't actually show a balanced representation of what the game is really like. So it's bollocks.
Yeah, obviously that's not a consumer-friendly thing. You want people with a critical mind to assess the games. You don't want people who already love the franchise to assess the games, because who's representing the people who've never played a Fallout game before? Like, how did they get an objective view on the game? Anyway, that's another Pete Hines special there. But there you go. That interview is very fascinating. We could go into it at length about picking apart why we don't like what he said here and there, but we're not going to do that today. Go and watch the video yourself. I highly recommend it if you want to see what happens inside the mind of a PR guy for a main company like Bethesda in the industry. Go and check it out, it's pretty interesting. Next up, Destiny 2 is getting rid of paid loot boxes. Now, Season of the Worthy is the next update to Destiny 2. A whole bunch of new content arriving tomorrow, March the 10th. It will bring weapon tuning, ability to change elemental affinity on your armor pieces, that thing we've all been waiting for, exotic armor tuning, UI updates, bug fixes, and more. But it's also, and more importantly, removing paid loot boxes from the game. Now, loot boxes, or bright engrams as they're known in Destiny 2, will be staying in the game, but they won't be purchasable anymore with real money. And Destiny 2 game director Luke Smith wrote in February 2020, "We want players to know what something costs before they buy it. Bright engrams don't live up to that principle, so we will no longer be selling them on the Eververse store, though they will still appear on the free track of the season pass," whatever that means. So going on the principle that they want people not to have to pay out indefinitely to try and get something, as in gamble, they want them to be able to purchase stuff outright in replacement for purchasable bright engrams. They're going to use a new module on the Eververse store, which will feature one item from a small selection of ships, sparrows, ghosts, and finishers that were offered in previous seasons to be purchased directly for silver, which is the premium currency. So no more gambling, but you can get the bright engrams using in-game stuff. You just can't purchase them anymore. So that's a plus, I guess.
At least it seems that paid loot boxes are getting rarer and rarer and going the way of the dodo, as more and more games seem to be removing them, or at least the paid version rather than the free version, because none of them are good, but at least the paid ones seem to be zoning out. This is all as a result of a bunch of regulation in a bunch of different territories and consumer pressure from channels like ours on YouTube and just people, you gamers, you are responsible for this, so take pride in your accomplishment in destroying the paid loot box. And it's great for players that this is happening, and the big publishers will have to start to adapt. And I can guarantee Bungie wouldn't have been able to get away with this if Activision still held the reins. And now Bungie have gone off in their own direction. They're going solo, and they've managed to do it, and it's great. It's good for players, and now the game is free to play. So monetizing it with just ordinary microtransactions in form of cosmetics and stuff, that seems much fairer and much more palatable.
Exactly. Next up, former PlayStation boss doesn't miss the console wars. Now deny it if you like, the console war is a thing. And this comes from Adam Boyes, who's a former PlayStation executive, and he was speaking to US Gamer recently. And this was the guy, if you remember back in 2013, where there was that skit where PlayStation was taking a piss of Xbox, and there was that video. This is how you share your games on PS4. Step 1. Thanks.
This is how you share your games on PS4. Thanks.
So he was the guy in that video taking the piss out of Xbox, who said thanks, if you remember him. So that's who we're talking about today. Obviously, that was a video specifically stoking the fires of the console war at the time. Probably won the console generation just in that like 90 seconds worth of video, to be honest. But Adam Boyes has been opening up on his thoughts about the console wars. Now he's left Sony, and he says he doesn't have any fear of missing out on what's going on at Sony anymore because, quote, there was so much stress, and I think the whole console battle concept, it takes you over. It's like that's all you think about. There's some pretty strong words there. If the staff are feeling it that much, like it's the only thing he thought about, and he's so stressed that he doesn't miss the company anymore, that says a lot. Absolutely. So next up, Cyberpunk 2077's default female protagonist gets an updated look on the reversible box art. She now has pink hair, which looks awesome. She hasn't got any black eye makeup anymore, so she's gothed down a bit, and she's got more chiseled facial features, and she looks awesome. So my question is to you, Henry, how do you think the new character compares to the old one? I think you know how I feel about that. And what character will you be playing in Cyberpunk, and will a sexy lady avatar convince you to play as a female?
No, I really don't care. I like reversible covers. I think that's great. Bring back those. They don't really happen that much anymore. But my goal in any RPG where the character creator is struggle for ages to make him look as much like me as possible, then realize I don't look cool in whatever this fictional world is, and give up and make someone who looks way better.
Let's move on quickly to Xbox Series X will have a dedicated audio chip, Ninja Theory engineers reveal. Now, this is significant because it will free up main system resources for use on other things. Danielle Galante from Ninja Theory, who are a Microsoft-owned studio now, remember, he said, we're going to have a dedicated chip to work with audio, which means we finally won't have to fight with programmers and artists for memory and CPU power.
Ninja Theory are great because they did Hellblade a few years ago, which was really important for using three-dimensional audio to give you the feeling of Hellblade's main character, Senua, because she has voices in her head. You could hear them on different sides, and it was meant to drive you crazy, and it was really powerful and really creative. So this is great not just for audio engineers, because it means they can do more cool stuff. It's also great for the developers and programmers and coders and everything, because they have all this extra system resources available to then spend on more interesting game mechanics or higher quality graphics and just better everything in good England. And
they said something like 12 teraflops that is coming on the Xbox Series X. They can use all of that 1.21 gigawatts now on...
Spared no expense with those flops. Not a single flop is wasted.
On audio, exactly, yeah. Next up, good news and bad news for Geforce Now streaming service. And they announced over the weekend that 2K Games have removed their games from the service, following other publishers who've done the same recently. Now, so the games removed this time are the BioShock trilogy, Borderlands series, and Civilization series. And 2K have joined Bethesda and Activision Blizzard in removing the games from the service.
And also recently, an indie developer called Hinterland recently tweeted about removing its game The Long Dark from the service, which we covered in this week's podcast, I think it was. Quite at length, let's say. So go ahead and check that out if you want to, or don't, but do it. It's good. It's good.
Absolutely do it. Podcast is awesome. Next up, the good news of this, or good news for Nvidia, is that the Epic Games CEO Tim Sweeney has come out in favor, wholeheartedly supporting the service, and he tweeted, Epic is wholeheartedly supporting Nvidia's GeForce Now service with Fortnite and with Epic Games Store titles that choose to participate, including exclusives, and will be improving the integration over time. But why is he doing this? Well, he says it's the most developer-friendly and publisher-friendly of the major streaming services, with zero tax on game revenue. Game companies who want to move the game industry towards a healthier state for everyone should be supporting this kind of service. Now, why do we like GeForce Now over like Stadia or anything like that, Henry?
Well, altogether, GeForce Now is a much more consumer-friendly option because you don't purchase the game specifically through GeForce Now. All it does is route your already made purchases on platforms like Steam or Epic. Any game you've bought on there can be accessed through GeForce Now. So you're not paying for the same game twice, ultimately. This puts GeForce Now in a kind of grey area, though, legally, so that there's a few questions about whether or not they are allowed to distribute it there because it's not a platform, it's only a service, but some developers consider it a platform, so it's a bit tricky. But ultimately, up until now, Nvidia hasn't really challenged anyone who's gone and said, no, we want to take our games back. So it'll be interesting if they ever do end up standing up to them, especially when more legal clarification becomes available.
Absolutely. Next up, a couple of shorter ones. Amnesia Rebirth has been announced. Now, Amnesia is the game, if you remember, that made every single Let's Play YouTuber famous. Rebirth is coming in 2020, and it does look graphically superior to its predecessors. I'll say that about the game. Whether you like the game or not, you know PewDiePie's gonna be playing it. You know Jacksepticeye's gonna be playing it. You know all those big YouTubers that do Let's Plays. You know they're gonna be playing it, lapping it up. So it's probably gonna do well. And next up, the new Harry Potter third-person wizard RPG could be revealed soon. Now, this is a rumor based on a job listing at Warner Brothers Games, right?
Yes, this is with Avalanche Software, who are best known for mainly a bunch of Disney games like Disney Infinity, not Avalanche Studio, which is best known for things like Just Cause and I think the Mad Max game, if I remember correctly. This job listing is specifically for an associate lighting technical artist, and it does say that the game will be announced soon. Beyond that, we don't really know, but this links up with a few other rumors and stuff that suggests that the game they're working on is the Harry Potter game.
Harry Potter, there you go. So lastly today, this is the games that will be released this week. And there's a couple of decent ones. So we've already talked about the Destiny 2 update, Season of the Worthy, which is coming tomorrow on March the 10th. We also have Ori and the Will of the Wisps, highly anticipated title, coming to PC, Xbox One on March the 11th. Neo 2 is coming on March the 13th for PS4, another highly anticipated one. And a couple of other ones. My Hero 1's Justice on PC, PS4, Xbox One, Switch, March the 13th. And Grand Blue Fantasy Versus is coming to PC on March the 13th, having recently been released on the PS4 on March the 3rd. And that is your lot for today's Monday News Roundup. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, click the thumbs up button, because it really does help us out. And comment what was your favourite story or anything else you want to contribute down in the comments section below. On behalf of Henry and I, we will see you again in the next video. Until then, bye for now.